What's going on, YouTube? Today I'm back with my tackle rankings for the 2023 NFL Draft. Mock draft coming tomorrow. Make sure to check that out, and Pro Bowl picks on Saturday. Starting off our tackle rankings, we have at number one Peter Skoronsky out of Northwestern. This guy to me is a top 10 pick. Don't know if he'll go that high because apparently he wants to play guard unless a team's going to take him really high. You can tell he's definitely wanting the money aspect, of course, but that doesn't worry me as a player. As far as he's played at Northwestern, it's been really, really good. Olu Fashanu was really the only guy challenging him for the top spot in this year's tackle class, and he's now going back to Penn State. So, with that, to me, Peter Skoronsky very much clears as the tackle one in this class. All around, he just brings it. As a pass blocker, I think he's very impressive. He's definitely worth a top pick for some team to improve their line. Yeah, and I could see an all pro type player out of this guy. Number two, going to be Broderick Jones out of Georgia. And like I said, after Olu went back, no one was really competing with Peter Skoronsky for the first tackle, but there are still other good tackles up top in this class, Broderick Jones being one of them. Very athletic, mauler type mentality. I like him in the run game as well, maybe even a bit better than Skoronsky, but I would say Skoronsky is definitely a better pass blocker than Jones. Similar size, but again, I just think Jones, bit younger, brings a different athleticism to his game. First round pick for sure. This guy will be, he'll be a good pickup for some team, mid first round. I almost even see a potential where, if he doesn't work out at tackle, I could see this guy being a guard. Just again, that mauler mentality, good run blocker. So Broderick Jones, I like him. Number three, going to be Paris Johnson Jr. out of Ohio State. A bigger guy than the last two. I wouldn't say as athletic, but I would say a bit stronger. Um, this isn't a guy that I'm as high on as other people. A lot of people have him as tackle two. I was much lower on him at the start of the season because he really was struggling, but he picked it up as the season went on. Now, I do think he has a lot of help around him on the offensive line, but he certainly is an anchor for it at the very least. I almost view him similar to a Kenyon Green, where I could very much see him having not the best rookie season. I could see him struggling to go, but similar to Kenyon Green, I think he would be able to pick it up afterwards. As for Johnson, though, I think honestly more than anything, the reason that he ends up still being so high for me is because even though I do have my worries with him as a tackle, because there's just times where he just doesn't look very good at tackle. He does just get really badly beat, especially by those high technicians. Where I think if he doesn't work out at tackle, he might be the best guard convert in this class, which definitely, pops him up a few spots because that versatility is really useful to have in general, but especially for a guy where, you're a little worried if he'll work out at tackle. I think, the fact that he can switch into guard. And I think his best play still was at guard before this season. So for Paris Johnson, he's a first round player. He will be a first round player. For me, he's a late first at best. But obviously, a first round tackle still with versatility makes him number three for me in this class. Number four, going to be Anton Harrison out of Oklahoma. And Harrison, he's not quite the player as these top three, but he's still a solid tackle for sure. I would kind of say after these top three, four guys is where the class kind of takes a bit of a dip. And Harrison's teetering on that for me because he's a big guy. He's decently athletic. He's a decent pass blocker. I like him as a run blocker. Um, he sets the edge well. That's one thing I will say, but not as well as you'd potentially like, just because again that lack of true athleticism. He's not the best at getting out to set the edge, but like he does it well when he's not having to get out there, which is kind of my concern with him. I think honestly, if he was just a bit quicker more than anything, if he just brought some better athleticism to his game, I think this guy could potentially be maybe even tackle two in this class. So there's definitely upside for him for sure. But as of right now, I don't see him on the same level as the other three. It lands him here at four, but still a player I definitely consider taking late first. Could be a really good, maybe a bit of a project, but maybe a project that'll pay out for a team like the Chiefs or something. Then at number five, we're going to have Darnell Wright, and a part of me really wants to put him above Anton Harrison. Simple fact of the matter is, I just don't think he has the same upside as Anton Harrison. Harrison, I can still see very much being an elite starter, give him a bit of time. Right, I don't quite see that kind of upside, although I'd say he's a safer player. For me, this is the type of guy that you take, kind of with the first pick of the second round. For a team that needs like that O line help, where it's like, yeah, maybe he's not going to be like an elite player, but he's going to be a solid player for you at the least. Um, I see him as a tackle. I don't really know how well he translates to guard because I do like his athleticism. I just think there's times where he just kind of collapses in terms of just being able to hold his ground. But when his anchor's working, it's certainly working. So number 5 here, though, for me, right? I mean, he totally could go first. I mean, he could go above, a few of these other guys. I can see a team really, really liking him. For me personally, like I said, I see him as that early second, kind of almost surefire at the very worst, good depth for you. But I see more for right. Number 6 going to be Dewan Jones out of Ohio State. Now, I'd say he's worse than Paris Johnson, but that's not so much a criticism because Dewan Jones is a big guy, 6'8", 359. He's one of the biggest players in this class. Might even be the biggest, as in terms of top tier talent here. So, I'm not sure how much I like having him at tackle just because, given that it's not that he's slow, like he's quicker than like a Tevin Jenkins, or, some of those other guys we've seen where it's like, yeah, they're most likely guard converts. With Dewan Jones, I mean, I kind of just feel the same way about him in a way where I feel like, teams are going to try him at tackle. I just don't know if he has, the speed or agility to keep up at tackle. I think worst case scenario, he doesn't work at tackle. You move him into guard and he's a solid guard. I don't know if he has that Tevin Jenkins type upside though, because Jenkins has been phenomenal, for the Bears this season. I see a lot of similarities in their game, though. For Jones, I would say he's actually a bit stronger than Jenkins. I just don't think he has quite the some of the other things, technique, hand placement. So number 6, I mean, still a day 2 player for me, but I don't see that high upside with Dewan Jones. Number 7 going to be Blake Freeland out of BYU, 6'8", 305, another big player. However, kind of the opposite of Jones, where I actually think he's quite a bit more athletic and has that better edge setting ability. It's just actually the rest that's not very great in my opinion. At times, his anchor, similar to Darnell Wright, where it's just at times it's like he's just not able to hold his ground. And there are also times in the run game where he just does not set blocks. And so, another one of those guys where in the future could certainly be a worthwhile starter for a team. There's decent upside with him, you know, big guy, but I just don't quite see that play that you would take from someone in the first round. So certainly worth maybe, a late day 2 pick. But, in this class, that's not saying much because it's not a very good tackle class this year. But, for how talented this year's class is, this is about what you're going to get, late day 2. Number 8 going to be Cody Mock. I think that's how you say it, out of North Dakota State. A couple years ago, Dylan Reduns was coming out, and I really liked him because I thought he fit really well with Trey Lance at the time and how he played and stuff. Obviously they've changed a bit since Trey Lance left, but Cody Mock reminds me in some ways of Dylan Reduns, but I think he's a much better pass blocker more than anything. But I'd say the run blocking is there though for sure. He's again 6'6", 303, so he's a pretty decent sized guy. I think at this point in the draft, just because again considering the type of tackle class it is, like late day 2, this is the type of guy where it's like you're hoping you can get a starter level talent out of him, but realistically, is he going to be a good starter for you? Probably not. But I do think Mock, he's a guy I'd take with good hope that he can become a starter for me because there's a lot of stuff to like from him for sure. His play, even though at a smaller school, has been very good for North Dakota State. And again, especially as a pass blocker, I think he's played very well. So again, you're drafting him for what you think you're going to get him for, with the hope he can do better. But he's kind of the last guy I'd say that I have like solid hope he could become a starter because I do like Mock. Number 9 going to be Graham Barton out of Duke, and again, this is the point where you're kind of saying like, okay, these guys are probably just good depth at best. Um, Barton, I am a bit higher on than I imagine where he'll go. He's probably a day 3 pick, but I could totally see taking him, in the third. Barton, again, he's played well, right? Obviously, like he's still at this point, he's still a top 10 tackle in this class because he's played well for Duke. He's a good pass blocker, and I think he's got, not a Broderick Jones level, but a Mauler type mentality where he definitely tries to get in on the run game. I think he's a smart player, just not the physicality that you quite like, especially for a guy of his type of, how he plays. I just don't think he has it. I think that's going to get him into trouble in the NFL. He's going to be trying to, you know, do things he just can't. Of course, you can always improve, right? But with Graham Barton, I mean, it's just I don't quite see it. I don't see it with him really ever becoming that top level guy. So again, good depth, I think for sure. He'd be a great, depth addition to an O line, and for some of the worst O lines, maybe a starter. But I don't see starting upside with Barton here. And then number 10, going to be Javon Foster out of Missouri. And this is a weird one because I'm definitely lower on him than a lot of other people. Hail Mary Sports has him tackle one, I believe, in his class, which is a little crazy to me. But, as for how I feel on Foster, athletic for sure. And I think a very good run blocker. It's the pass blocking that worries me. I don't see him really ever becoming a good pass blocker just based off of what I've seen at Missouri. He's just not very good. Just plain and simple. There are times where it's really upside is what you're betting on with Foster here. And for me, if you're at this point where you've already gone Mock, you've already gone Barton, um, I'd be betting more on those guys' upside than Foster, to be honest, because I just think at this point his upside realistically is backup tackle. In that there's a value for that, late third. I think he'll go higher than where I have him going. But with Foster, I just again don't see the starter upside, so it's just not worth that high a pick to me. But in this class, that still lands him at tackle 10 here, with slight upside of him starting potentially. Past the top 10, 11, Matthew Bergeron out of Syracuse. He's done a good job holding his own this year. Again, don't know if I see a starter in him. Joshua Gray, Oregon State, very interesting prospect. I think could totally still rise, and that guy might be, way higher than 12 by the end. Jalen Duncan, not played well. He's older. He's not really shown improvement. Jordan McFadden out of Clemson, we kind of know what we're getting with him. And then Robert Scott, who high upside, but man, his play's just not been great for FSU. But that's going to round out my tackle rankings for this week. Next week, it'll be interior. Like I said, mock draft tomorrow, Pro Bowl picks on Saturday. So if you don't want to miss those, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and stick around. Share the content if you like it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.